Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another episode of Battle Bites here in World of Tanks. And today we're going to be doing a tank review on a tank that I just completed the grind, the AMX 12T, which is the French Tier 6 light tank. And this tank comes equipped with a 75mm auto-loading gun that has 6 shots in each clip. And if that sounds like a lot of fun, well, we'll get into some of the numbers, the strengths, the weaknesses of the tank, and we'll have a little bit of gameplay review, and I'll wrap things up with my final impressions of the tank. So the first question anyone may have is, why am I here? Why am I grinding through the AMX 12T? What is the goal at the end of the grind? And here it is, the Bat Chat, the Tier 10 French medium tank that is extremely fast and has a very deadly, rapid-firing, auto-loading gun that is very popular and very fun to play at Tier 10. But if the Bat Chat is your dessert, the AMX 12T is your vegetables, and you've got to eat your vegetables to get your dessert. So as we'll go into the review here, we'll see why the AMX 12T is like eating our vegetables. So the first aspect of the tank that we'll cover is the grind, and it's a bit of a difficult grind. You start out with a 75mm gun that you can see here. That's not very good. The penetration and damage values are very low, and remember, this tank can go up against Tier 9s. So at 7000 XP you can unlock the first upgrade, which gives you a minor speed boost as well as a minor uptick in penetration and damage for the gun. And then you can go right to the AMX 1375, or you can go for the second upgrade package, which costs 12,000 XP. I did unlock that because I figured at some point I'll unlock the artillery, but I think I would have been happier if I had just gone directly to the AMX 1375, because the time spent in this tank can be a bit of a grind. So now briefly we'll discuss the armor, and it's an easy discussion to have. Basically, this tank has no armor. 50mm on the front plate and 40mm at the front of the turret, 20 at the sides and 15 at the rear. If you get shot in this tank, you will be penetrated. Most ammo will simply overmatch your armor. You don't really have any hopes of bouncing, and you shouldn't be counting on doing that in this tank. You should instead be relying on stealth. While we're in the screen, just another note, the gun elevation and depression on this tank is horrendous. -4 degrees is the gun depression, which is a constant struggle, and the gun elevation is 12 degrees. Very often, if you're going down a slope and you're trying to point your turret up at something on the other end of the slope, you will not have the gun elevation to do it. It is extremely frustrating. Just be aware of that as you get into this tank. So here we are on the ammo and consumable selection screen, and as you can see, this tank is only capable of carrying a total of 30 rounds on the vehicle. Remember, it's a 6-shot clip, so you need to divide your ammo in groups of 6. I've decided to take 1 clip of premium ammo, which has about 200mm of penetration, but you can see that that clip runs for about 20,000 credits. And given that the damage per shot of this ammo is only 135, that brings your maximum potential damage in this tank to just a hair over 4,000. So keep that in mind. You will not be able to carry games based on your damage in this tank because you are limited by the amount of ammo you have. And as far as consumables, I went with a standard array here of small repair, small first aid, and a manual fire extinguisher. And we'll wrap up the theory portion of the review with the equipment. And for me, it's all about maximizing spotting of the enemy tanks. So camo net, binoculars, you could even double this up with coated optics to maximize your view range. Remember, you're going against Tier 9s, and there could be Tier 8 scouts out there that are going to be kitted out with lots of crew skills and lots of equipment. So anything you can do to increase your view range will help you win those view range battles with the enemy tanks. So I think we've covered enough of the numbers of this tank. Now let's see it in action in some gameplay. So here we are in a Tier 7 standard battle on steps, and this is about as good as the matchmaking can get for this tank. About half the team, a little less, is Tier 7. And I'll cover a couple things that I didn't quite get to in depth in the earlier part of the review, and the first is the top speed of the AMX 12T. While it is listed at 60 kph, and you can get there, the engine power on the tank is lacking, so it takes a bit of time to get there. The tank kind of feels sluggish on its way up to that top speed, especially if you're off-road, and especially if you're on any kind of hilly terrain, which you'll see here in just a couple of moments. So what I like to do on steps is rush to this rock on the eastern flank here. It's a good opportunity to kind of poke out, provide some early vision for your team, but we have a bit of an aggressive push from the enemy. There is an T-3485 Russian Tier 6 medium tank, and he's down there in the valley. So we're going to see if we can provide some support there. He's going to push a little bit too aggressively here, and we're going to try and make him pay for it. A couple shots go in. We're able to put one in. Now, right here, this is the max gun elevation for this tank. If I was any further down the slope, or if he was any further up the opposing slope, I would not have been able to get my gun high enough to put the gun on the target there. Elevation is usually not a limiting factor in most of your tanks, but it is a big problem in the AMX 12T. And so here you can see the sluggishness of the engine power. We're going uphill here, and this just does not feel like light tank mobility. The tank kind of struggles when you're going uphill to get to that max speed at any kind of quickness. So again, remember the ammo loadout in this tank, 30 shots is all you get. So unlike some of your other tanks, early in the game, you don't really want to be taking speculative shots. You don't want to be taking blind shots, because every time you miss, that's a big dent in your max ammo capacity and your remaining potential damage for the game. You do have some mobility in this tank, and you want to be able to help provide support at the end of the game. So one thing to remember in the AMX 12T, do not get rammed. That 12T stands for 12 tons, and you are lighter than just about everybody else out here. So I saw that E25 barreling around the corner. He had his sights locked on me, and I could smell a ram there. So I put a shot in, damaged his ammo rack, which will be a theme here. We do quite a lot of ammo rack damage throughout this replay. And then I pull it back around the corner nice and tight. The E25 comes barreling around the corner, slams into my beefier ally there. We put a couple shots in, and he's removed from the game. So no matter what, unless it's an ELC AMX, don't get rammed in the 12T. So looking at the minimap, I could see that we've got a nice healthy push going down this eastern flank. And look at this aim time here. We have a shot at a Churchill, but man, I didn't even let that fully aim, and I was still there for what felt like an eternity. Spotted, you know, no armor on this tank, so a dangerous situation. This is not the kind of tank with a rapid aiming gun. It is a larger caliber gun on a smaller tank, so you can expect to have that longer aim time, but it's definitely something you need to cope with. And again, because you can't waste shots, you need to let each shot fully aim. So we did a little bush work here. We're just trying to extend vision into the enemy base, but I can see that we've got a full complement of allies pushing down this eastern flank. So we're going to try and get a little aggressive and push into the enemy base. I go for a reload on my way in, and remember, if I was by myself, I certainly wouldn't be considering doing this because the clip potential is 800 for this gun. But if you run into something that's got more than 800 health, well, you can unload your clip into him, but you're going to spend the next 20 seconds reloading, and you're probably going to get removed from the game. But thankfully, we have a nice healthy amount of support from our allies, so I feel comfortable getting in here and kind of advancing the push into the enemy base. So we're going to poke down this little slope here, and I can see there are some enemies just ahead around this little corner here. There we've got a KV, and yes, he takes one hit, so now I know we're good. Now I know he does not have enough health to survive the rest of my clip, so I come out, pump a couple shots in, and he's removed. Once he took that first big hit from my allies, I knew I was okay. But if he was on full health, that's not something I would want to go toe-to-toe with. And then we've got the Cheeto. That's a Japanese tier 6 tank, and he takes 2 hits. That first one was poorly aimed, but we'll take the kill. And then a T-37, I've got 2 shots left in the clip. I put them both into him, and then I'm reloading. And the T-37, he took a shot at me there, and then he realizes I'm reloading. Like, hats off to this guy. He then realizes that I'm not a threat for the moment, so he changes his target to my ally in front there. But thankfully, we are almost reloaded, and my ally does get taken out, but I'm going to be able to put 1 in, another ammo rack shot, 2 takes off the tracks, and my allies secure the kill. And there's just 1 enemy heavy tank remaining on the western flank, but he is quickly overwhelmed by the rest of my allies. And that is a win for the team in the AMX 12T. So the reason I wanted to showcase this battle, it's not because it was a great individual performance, but it's a performance that you can expect to have when you're in this tank playing solo in a random battle. You're going to try and provide some spotting, but you're not going to be able to carry. You're not going to go lone wolf and be able to wreak all kinds of havoc in this tank. You are a support tank. And so when you're by yourself, this is kind of what you can expect. You're going to unload a couple clips. If the battle goes well, you'll be able to clean up with a nice efficient role in the battle. But to really do well in this tank, I think to put up the highest numbers, to get the mastery badge, what you want to do is team up with some heavy hitters in a platoon, whether it's artillery or tank destroyers with some big guns or something else, where you want to have a well-trained crew in camouflage and spotting and things that reduce your visibility but increase your view range. And then you want to spot for your platoon mates in your tank. and try and get the assistance damage, because your potential damage in this tank and your penetration values, they just aren't high enough to deal with the enemy tanks that you're going to see on the battlefield. So instead, embrace that support role, and hopefully you'll be able to have some success in this tank, and eating your vegetables won't be such a bad experience. So that's it. We're wrapping up the review here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully there were some tips or tricks in there that will make this grind a little bit less burdensome for you. Again, this wasn't a great experience for me going through this tank, but I did get through it. I think I picked up a couple things along the way, and I've now moved on to the AMX 1375, one step closer to dessert to the Bat Chat. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.